Welcome, gents. Sometimes the people closest to you cannot see the fire inside you, and that is exactly what makes it burn stronger. Being the black sheep of the family is rarely easy. It is not about being rebellious for the sake of attention or refusing to follow rules blindly. For the Sigma male, it is about feeling a quiet disconnect from the patterns, expectations, and judgments that surround him at home. He watches, he listens, and he understands that fitting in is never going to be his path. While the world may label him as odd, awkward, or even troublesome, he quietly absorbs every slight, every misunderstanding, and every moment of ridicule. He does not lash out, he does not beg for approval. Instead, he studies the dynamics around him and uses them as an unspoken blueprint to understand human behavior and the consequences of choices. What sets him apart is his ability to turn isolation into insight. Every moment spent on the sidelines becomes training. Every conflict, every unfair comparison, every sense of being overlooked is transformed into lessons in strategy, resilience, and self-awareness. He learns patience, the value of observing before acting, and the power of building himself in silence. By the time others notice, he has already walked a path they could not imagine. The Sigma male, who was once dismissed as the black sheep, becomes a self-made legend, not by proving them wrong loudly, but by quietly becoming unstoppable in ways no one saw coming. Let's dive deeper, gents. Number 1. He observes every flaw in his family dynamics and turns them into lessons rather than resentment. Every flaw you notice in others is a lesson waiting to teach you something about yourself. A Sigma male does not just see his family for who they are. He studies them like a master strategist watching a game unfold. He notices patterns, reactions, and weaknesses, but he never lets judgment or anger cloud his mind. Instead of holding grudges or resenting unfair comparisons, he takes mental notes. He observes how a sibling avoids responsibility, how a parent reacts to stress, or how arguments spiral out of control. Each observation becomes a tool, a lesson in human nature that he can use in his life outside the family. For example, if a relative always responds to criticism with anger, he learns the value of emotional control and how letting pride dictate actions only creates conflict. If another family member constantly seeks approval from others, he sees the danger of measuring self-worth by external validation. These moments are not fodder for bitterness. They are quietly stored as insight into people's behavior, a guidebook for navigating relationships, business, and social interactions in the wider world. He also turns these lessons inward. Observing flaws in others helps him identify the same tendencies within himself so he can correct them before they become a problem. If he notices a family member procrastinating when challenges arise, he reminds himself to face difficulties head-on. If he sees someone acting out of insecurity, he reflects on his own self-doubts and works to strengthen his confidence. This approach does not make him cold or detached. It makes him wise and self-aware. By transforming what others see as chaos, dysfunction, or negativity into knowledge and personal growth, he builds a foundation that no family drama can shake. Over time, what was once perceived as being the outsider, the black sheep, becomes the very source of unstoppable focus and quiet power. Every flaw he observed was not a setback, but a stepping stone toward mastery and independence. Number 2. He refuses to adopt the expectations of his family, crafting his own unique code of honor. Freedom begins the moment you stop living by someone else's rules and start defining your own. A Sigma male understands that his path cannot be dictated by the expectations of others, not even by the people who share his blood. While family often sets rules, traditions, or visions of what success should look like, he quietly steps back and examines them without judgment. He asks himself whether following those paths will truly make him fulfilled or if they are simply designed to maintain appearances or meet someone else's definition of worth. In this way, he does not rebel for attention or spite. He rejects conformity because it would compromise his authenticity. Crafting his own code of honor is not about defiance, it is about clarity. He defines the principles that guide his decisions, the standards he refuses to compromise, and the values he holds above approval. For instance, if his family prioritizes wealth over integrity, he chooses honesty even when it comes at a cost. If they value appearances over substance, he focuses on mastery and meaningful achievements. Every choice is measured against his internal compass rather than external pressure. This approach often confuses those around him. They may see him as stubborn or aloof because he refuses to fit neatly into expectations. Yet what they do not realize is that he is building something far more powerful than conformity could ever provide: self-respect, independence, and a reputation rooted in authenticity. For example, while relatives might chase promotions, social validation, or approval through conventional paths, he invests time in skills, knowledge, and experiences that align with his vision of life. Over time, his commitment to his own code becomes undeniable. By refusing to adopt borrowed expectations, he transforms family judgment and skepticism into silent fuel. The very pressure intended to control him becomes motivation to prove, first to himself, that success and honor are not inherited from others, but created through discipline, clarity, and unwavering self-belief. In doing so, the Sigma male turns the weight of expectation into a stepping stone, building a life that is not defined by bloodline or tradition, but by his own extraordinary standards. Number 3. He studies human behavior in his family and learns to anticipate actions without confrontation. Understanding people before they speak is the quietest form of power. A Sigma male never rushes to react when tensions rise within his family. He watches, he listens. Every word, every gesture, and even the silences become clues in a complex map of human behavior. He studies patterns over time, noticing how anger flares, how guilt manipulates, and how praise can be used as a tool to control. What might feel chaotic to others becomes a laboratory for him, where each interaction is a lesson in human psychology and strategy. He learns to anticipate actions without ever stepping into confrontation. For instance, if he knows a sibling will overreact when criticized, he frames his words carefully or chooses to stay silent, avoiding unnecessary conflict while still holding his ground. If a parent tends to deflect responsibility, he adjusts his approach to gain cooperation without creating tension. Over time, he develops an almost instinctive sense of timing, tone, and approach, allowing him to navigate difficult situations with calm and precision that surprises everyone around him. This is not manipulation, it is mastery over chaos. By observing and understanding, he prevents drama before it even begins. He sees the triggers, the emotional currents, and the predictable patterns that govern family interactions, and he positions himself in a way that protects his energy and advances his goals. The wisdom gained from this approach is profound. He learns patience, emotional intelligence, and the ability to influence without confrontation. These skills extend far beyond the family setting, guiding him in business, friendships, and romantic relationships. For example, in the workplace, he can anticipate the motives of colleagues and act decisively without needing to dominate conversations or force opinions. In essence, by studying human behavior in his family, the Sigma male turns observation into armor and foresight into power. What starts as surviving family dynamics evolves into a lifelong skill, transforming him from an overlooked observer into someone who moves through the world with quiet confidence, foresight, and undeniable control over his own destiny. Number 4. He develops his own language of truth. Instead of adopting family narratives, he creates his own definitions of success, honor, and worth. Truth is not inherited. It is discovered, defined, and lived by the one who dares to think for themselves. A Sigma male understands early on that the stories his family tells about success, honor, and worth are not universal truths. They are perspectives shaped by fear, tradition, and ego. While most people accept these narratives without question, he quietly questions everything. He listens to the definitions his family imposes, but never allows them to dictate his reality. Instead, he builds his own language of truth, crafting meanings that align with his principles and vision for life. For example, if a family defines success as wealth, status, or social recognition, he looks deeper. He asks himself what success truly feels like, what achievements matter to him, and what kind of impact he wants to leave behind. He may find that mastery, independence, or intellectual growth outweigh external approval. Similarly, honor is not measured by adherence to family rules or appearances, but by integrity, consistency, and the courage to act according to his values. Worth is not a reflection of comparison to relatives or peers, but a recognition of his unique abilities and commitment to self-mastery. Creating his own definitions allows him to live without constant pressure to conform. He is no longer trapped in the silent battles of approval or validation. Each choice, each step forward, is guided by a framework he designed, one that reflects authenticity rather than inherited expectations. Over time, this language of truth becomes second nature. It shapes decisions, relationships, and goals in a way that is invisible to the family but powerful in effect. By rejecting borrowed narratives and embracing self-defined truths, the Sigma male cultivates freedom and resilience. He no longer measures life by someone else's ruler. Instead, he writes his own rules, measures progress by his standards, and walks a path that feels unmistakably his own. What others see as rebellion is, in truth, a profound form of wisdom. He becomes unstoppable, not because he defies others, but because he honors the truths that only he can define. Number 5. He understands legacy beyond bloodlines. True legacy is not inherited. It is created by the choices you make and the lives you touch. A Sigma male quickly realizes that family approval is often fleeting and conditional. Praise, recognition, or validation from relatives can never measure his worth or the life he is capable of building. Instead of seeking approval, he focuses on creating a legacy that matters, one defined not by bloodlines, but by the impact he leaves behind. Success for him is measured in influence, achievements, and the value he adds to the world, rather than the praise he receives from family members. For example, he may start a business, craft a work of art, or develop a skill that others admire. He understands that the approval of distant relatives is irrelevant compared to the influence he can have on people who truly matter, or on communities he contributes to. His legacy is the lives he improves, the minds he challenges, and the systems he strengthens. He views his family's judgments as noise, while the real measure of his life is the mark he leaves on the world. This mindset allows him to operate with clarity and focus. He is not trapped by the weight of expectations, comparisons, or outdated definitions of success. Instead, he works steadily, guided by principles, vision, and purpose. Even when family dismisses his efforts or labels him as unconventional, he knows that time and consistency will reveal the value of his actions. Over time, he becomes a living example of what it means to define success on one's own terms. He builds a life that is meaningful, resilient, and independent of familial approval. His legacy transcends bloodlines, not because he rejects family entirely, but because he recognizes that true influence comes from action, mastery, and integrity, not inherited status. In the end, the Sigma male transforms from the black sheep to a self-made legend by creating a life of lasting impact, proving that legacy is something you earn, not something you are given. Number 6. He quietly experiments with different paths in life until he discovers what aligns with his essence. Life is a laboratory, and the Sigma male treats every choice as an experiment until he discovers what truly fits him. A Sigma male never rushes to settle into the mold that society or family expects. He quietly explores, tests, and navigates different paths without needing approval or applause. Every experience, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, becomes a way to understand himself and the world around him. He does not measure success by others' definitions. Instead, he focuses on discovering what resonates with his core values, what gives him genuine satisfaction, and what strengthens his independence. For example, he might try a career that seems unconventional or socially frowned upon. While others may question his choices or compare him to siblings following traditional paths, he treats it as a learning opportunity. He observes what energizes him, what drains him, and what challenges stretch his abilities. Through this process, he gathers insights about his strengths, weaknesses, and true interests. This approach extends beyond work. He experiments with hobbies, social circles, and personal habits. Some choices fail, some lead to dead ends, and some reveal hidden potential he never realized he had. Each trial teaches him about his resilience, adaptability, and priorities. Unlike those who fear failure, he embraces it because every experiment brings him closer to understanding what aligns with his essence. The power of this quiet experimentation is that it builds self-awareness and confidence simultaneously. He does not need to justify his choices to anyone because he knows the path he is carving is authentic. Over time, the Sigma male's life becomes a reflection of deliberate decisions, refined through observation and trial, not imitation or expectation. Ultimately, his willingness to explore quietly and consistently allows him to discover a life that fits him perfectly. By the time others notice, he has already achieved clarity, mastery, and independence. What began as experimentation becomes a lifestyle of intentionality, authenticity, and unstoppable self-alignment. Number 7. His failures within family settings are logged meticulously as training for real-world challenges. Every failure is a lesson disguised as pain, and the Sigma male never wastes a single one. A Sigma male experiences setbacks just like anyone else, but his approach to failure sets him apart. Within the family, misunderstandings, conflicts, and mistakes are often seen as embarrassments or reasons for shame. He, however, sees them as a unique form of training. Every argument that goes wrong, every expectation he fails to meet, every moment where he feels judged or overlooked, is logged in his mind not as a defeat but as data. He studies what happened, why it happened, and how it could have been handled differently. For example, if a family gathering spirals into criticism because he expressed a different opinion, he reflects on what triggered the reaction, how he could have communicated better, and what he learned about human behavior from the situation. That reflection is not about changing who he is. It is about sharpening his instincts, improving his emotional intelligence, and preparing himself for challenges outside the family that could have much higher stakes. This meticulous logging of failures transforms what others might call shame into insight. He begins to recognize patterns, understanding which reactions are predictable and which situations demand careful navigation. The small daily setbacks within family life become a rehearsal for handling workplace politics, business negotiations, and social dynamics, where the consequences are far greater. The wisdom gained is twofold. First, he learns to detach his self-worth from immediate outcomes. A failure does not define him. Second, he develops a mindset that treats obstacles as opportunities to refine strategy, communication, and resilience. Over time, the Sigma male becomes a person who moves through the world with quiet confidence, because he has already survived and learned from countless trials in an environment that tested him constantly. Ultimately, family failures are not wounds to dwell on. They are building blocks. Each mistake becomes a stepping stone toward mastery, turning him from the black sheep who was once dismissed into a self-made legend whose skills, patience, and foresight cannot be shaken. Number 8. He finds teachers outside the family. Sometimes the lessons you need most cannot be found at home, and the world becomes your classroom. A Sigma male quickly realizes that family cannot provide all the guidance he needs. The wisdom in his household may be limited, biased, or focused on traditions that no longer serve him. Instead of complaining or feeling abandoned, he turns outward. He seeks teachers, mentors, and experiences beyond the household that can challenge him, expand his mind, and show him what is truly possible. These external guides become his real teachers, offering perspectives and knowledge that push him beyond the familiar. For example, a book about business strategy, philosophy, or psychology can provide insights that his family never considered. A mentor outside the family may model courage, discipline, or vision in ways he can learn from firsthand. Even experiences like travel, volunteering, or pursuing passions become lessons in independence, resilience, and self-discovery. He does not wait for approval or validation from his relatives. He understands that growth comes from exposure, practice, and learning from those who have already walked the path he hopes to master. This approach is subtle and deliberate. He absorbs knowledge quietly, applies it with precision, and integrates it into his own philosophy of life. While family may still criticize or misunderstand his choices, he continues to learn, adapt, and grow. He values these outside influences not as replacements for family, but as accelerators of his potential. Over time, the Sigma male becomes a living testament to the power of seeking wisdom beyond what is familiar. The guidance he gathers outside the household equips him to navigate life with skill, foresight, and confidence that surpasses those who only rely on inherited teachings. What began as the black sheep searching for direction evolves into a self-made legend guided by knowledge, mentors, and experiences carefully chosen to shape him into the person he was meant to become. In the end, he proves that sometimes the greatest lessons come not from those closest to us, but from the world we dare to explore on our own. Number 9. He transforms criticism into strategy, identifying weak points and turning them into strengths. Criticism is not an attack, it is a map showing exactly where you can grow. A Sigma male has a unique way of dealing with criticism. While many people feel hurt, defensive, or frustrated when someone points out flaws, he does something different. He listens, observes, and analyzes without letting ego get in the way. Every critique, whether fair or unfair, becomes a piece of intelligence. He dissects it, finding the kernel of truth that can be used as a tool for improvement. For example, if a family member says he is too quiet or too distant, instead of taking offense, he reflects on it. He asks himself why it bothers others, what they might be missing about him, and how this perception could be used to his advantage. Maybe his quiet nature can help him observe situations more carefully, anticipate reactions, and make better decisions. What others view as a weakness becomes a weapon of insight and strategy. He does this consistently with every criticism he encounters. A family member might label him irresponsible or reckless. Rather than dismissing the comment or arguing, he examines whether there is any truth to it, evaluates his actions, and designs a plan to either correct or leverage it. This is not about conforming to someone else's standards. It is about turning feedback into fuel for self-mastery. Over time, this skill transforms him. Weak points that once caused friction or embarrassment evolve into areas of strength. Criticism stops being a source of pain and becomes a strategic advantage. He becomes unshakable because he can anticipate objections, navigate social dynamics with precision, and make decisions with clarity. In essence, by transforming criticism into strategy, the Sigma male turns what is meant to limit him into a blueprint for growth. He no longer fears judgment or opinions because he knows every word carries the potential to make him stronger, wiser, and more unstoppable. Criticism is no longer a threat. It is an invitation to mastery. Number 10. He refuses to compete in familiar arenas. True strength is not proving yourself in familiar arenas. It is finding the space where you can thrive without comparison. A Sigma male quickly realizes that competing for recognition within the family is often a trap. Old battles over approval, validation, or hierarchy are already crowded, worn out, and emotionally charged. He understands that trying to win these fights is a losing game because the rules were never designed for him. Instead of engaging in endless struggles for acceptance, he chooses to walk away and focus on unclaimed territory, spaces where his talents, vision, and ambition can flourish without interference. For example, while relatives might compete for status, attention, or wealth in predictable ways, he seeks paths that allow him to define success for himself. This could be a career in an unconventional field, building a business in a niche no one else sees, mastering a craft quietly, or pursuing knowledge that few appreciate. By avoiding familiar arenas, he avoids the comparison trap and frees himself from the limitations of family expectations. This approach is both strategic and liberating. It allows him to build momentum, gain mastery, and grow confidence without constantly measuring himself against those who misunderstand him. He no longer feels the pressure to prove his worth in the eyes of others because he has discovered a space where the rules are his own. Every step he takes in these unclaimed territories is a step toward independence, self-mastery, and quiet power. Over time, this strategy makes him unstoppable. While others remain trapped in old patterns, he creates a unique life that commands respect by results, not argument. His victories are authentic because they are untainted by the need for approval or competition in arenas where he was always at a disadvantage. In the end, the Sigma male transforms the energy that could have been wasted on familiar battles into a focused drive that builds his legacy. He becomes not just successful, but untouchable, forging a path that is undeniably his own and turning what once made him the black sheep into the very source of his extraordinary power. Number 11. He transforms envy into strategy. Envy is wasted energy unless you turn it into insight and action. A Sigma male sees envy in a completely different light. While most people allow jealousy to create bitterness or resentment, he transforms it into strategy. Observing the successes of family members, whether it is recognition, material achievements, or social influence, does not make him bitter. Instead, it becomes fuel. A roadmap showing what is possible, what tactics work, and where opportunities lie. For example, if a sibling receives praise for public speaking or excels in a business venture, he studies it quietly. He asks himself what steps led to that success, what skills were leveraged, and how he could apply the lessons in his own way. He does not copy blindly or seek approval. Instead, he uses observation to inform his strategy, improving his abilities while carving a path that aligns with his own values and vision. This approach turns potential negativity into empowerment. Rather than wasting time comparing himself to others, he focuses on mastering himself. Each achievement he witnesses becomes a silent lesson, revealing strengths, weaknesses, and gaps that he can use to his advantage. Over time, this creates an edge that family members may not even notice. They see results but rarely see the calculated preparation and reflection behind them. The Sigma male also understands that transforming envy into strategy requires patience and emotional intelligence. He does not rush to surpass others in visible ways. He focuses on deliberate growth. He accumulates skills, knowledge, and experience quietly, allowing his actions to speak louder than any rivalry. Ultimately, what begins as a natural reaction to witnessing others' accomplishments evolves into a mindset of opportunity and calculated advancement. He becomes someone who can learn from everyone around him without being controlled by feelings of inadequacy or jealousy. By turning envy into strategy, he transforms observation into power, positioning himself not just to succeed, but to dominate on his own terms, quietly building a life that reflects mastery, foresight, and unstoppable confidence. In final words, legends are not born from comfort or approval. They are forged in the fire of isolation, observation, and relentless self-mastery. The Sigma male who starts as the black sheep of the family does not seek to prove anyone wrong or to gain validation. He quietly observes, learns, and transforms every challenge into an opportunity. Every slight, criticism, or misunderstanding becomes fuel for growth. He studies human behavior, identifies hidden agendas, and experiments with paths outside the expectations imposed on him. He turns failures into lessons, envy into strategy, and isolation into clarity. By refusing to compete in familiar arenas or chase approval, he crafts a life on his own terms. He develops a personal code of honor, defines success and worth for himself, and finds mentors and experiences beyond the family that guide him in ways his household could not. Every decision, every achievement, and every calculated action silently rewrites his narrative. His results speak louder than explanations, and his rise becomes undeniable without boasting or seeking recognition. Ultimately, the transformation from black sheep to self-made legend is not about rebellion. It is about self-awareness, discipline, and the courage to walk a path that others cannot follow. It is about turning the limitations, misunderstandings, and challenges of family dynamics into a blueprint for independence, mastery, and influence. The Sigma male proves that being underestimated is a gift. What starts as isolation and rejection evolves into unstoppable power, wisdom, and a life that is entirely his own. He becomes a living example that legends are crafted quietly, with precision, and through unwavering commitment to self-mastery. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.